So in this video, we're going to be frustrated. Will be the correct word to use. So Starmer wants to water down Labour's 28 billion green pledge even further. So I know, as Chancellor of the Exchequer, you do get a decent amount of autonomy from the Prime Minister. I do wonder, though, as Shadow Chancellor, do you get that same sort of autonomy from the leader of your party? The answer is probably no. Starmer considering watering down Labour's 28 billion green borrowing pledge even further as the party aims to prove the public it can be trusted with the economy. So originally they were going to do, actually we'll discuss that because it's in the BBC article, but in June, Reeves was forced to scale back the plan, saying that instead of coming in at the start of the first term in office, they'd ramp up by the middle. They cut the funding, basically. This is spin. This is just spin. But now a party source has said there is growing pressure from Starmer's office to go further to reduce the cost and impact of the scheme. Another source said it was more important to fulfill Labour's fiscal rule that debt must be falling as a share of national income after 5 years, saying the fiscal rule matters more and it will dictate how much is in the Green Prosperity Fund. And this is just people who don't understand economics at all. You have to invest money in the economy for it to grow. Yeah, you can argue the Tories borrowed 100 billion or whatever, but they wasted it. You know, imagine that money was put into the economy properly. It was invested into public services, into schools, into hospitals, that sort of thing. You know, it's just, this is complete economic illiteracy. We've gone through this with the Geddes Acts post World War One, where all they did was cut funding year on year. We've gone through this with austerity. Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer, very vocal critics of austerity, but this is austerity, the fiscal rules. How, you know, unless you invest money into something, how do you expect it to grow? It doesn't make sense. This is absolute fiscal illiteracy because they don't have the answers. Because they don't want to say we're going to borrow money. So what they're going to do is essentially austerity 2.0, because they will be held to account for these things. You know, about this stuff here, the fiscal rule. You know, debt to GDP, all this stuff. And if they say, look, what we're doing is we're going to borrow money for the long term of this country, so that we have proper schools, proper hospitals, public services that people actually want. So you know, we can borrow money and help grow the economy, invest in areas that are that are deprived in order to help them grow, in order to achieve more. It will add more to the economy long term, and it will be better for the British people. Once again, people, I'm telling you, Macron is borrowing billions of pounds or euros in his case to nationalise EDF. France's debt to GDP is higher than ours. Where is Macron getting the money from? America are borrowing billions of dollars in order to invest in, you know, the Green New Deal or whatever Joe Biden's calling it. He's investing for the future of America so they can be there for the next wave of manufacturing, which will be green technology. The EU are doing the same thing. We are on two sides of a green arms race, and we are so far behind we don't even realise we're in the race. That's how bad we're doing here. You know, Labour apparently denies abandoning the pledge. So once again, like, you can they please just figure out what they're about? This is driving me nuts. It's absolutely driving me nuts because you've got here, right, sources saying that from the leader's office that they want to cut the funding. Now this is from the Telegraph, so it could be a myth. But Labour has denied claims it would water down its flagship Green Prosperity Plan, even though they've already watered it down. It'd be a double watering down at this point. A senior source had suggested to the BBC that the level of investment previously promised of 28 billion a year might never be reached, and that was the original promise of 28 billion pounds a year, which is quite a lot. You know, that's fine. Yeah, watering that one down, okay, it's not too bad, in my opinion. But again, you know, we wouldn't see. I don't think we'd see a bond crisis like we saw under Liz Truss because, you know, you could tell the market where that money's going, which is to building wind turbines, solar, and all sorts of other projects. And if they think they're going to get a return on that, then, or that it will grow the economy, they'll be okay with it. Like I said, the Tories borrowed billions of pounds, 32 billion for test and trace. The markets then go, well, I don't know about giving Dido Harding all this money. You know, the reason why the economy tanked was because of the voodoo economics Liz Truss was pushing. The very much debunked promises of Liz Truss that we saw under Reagan. It doesn't work. A party spokesperson said if elected, Labour would ramp up the investment. That was Labour's policy before. It was originally promised to spend 28 billion a year until 2030 on the green flagship. This was the original promise under from Rachel Reeves, but that's been watered down. In June, Chancellor Reeves watered down the pledge. A senior source in the Labour leader's office said that that was because of the state of the public finances. Again, kind of nonsense, but okay. But given that all, Rachel Reeves talks up this fiscal rules thing, that's why they did this. You know, a senior source at the Labour's office said that this was because of the state of public finances. They stressed that Labour's fiscal rules were more important than any policy. So that's the same thing that they said to the Telegraph. So, you can see that it must be the same source briefing the BBC and the Telegraph here. So the question is, who is it? The Conservatives have previously warned of the alleged dangers of the policy. The only danger is this, like I said, it would be a lot of money to borrow. It'd be almost one test and trace every year. So maybe the number should have been toned down. I don't know. But the issue is the policy now is incredibly watered down compared to what it was, especially in a world where there's an arms race, green arms race in the EU, which is one of the biggest economic blocs in the world, and America, which is the biggest economic bloc in the world. And you throw in China, that's three major players, and we have to compete with them. And we are not going to do a good job if these three are saying we're going to invest a lot of money into ourselves in order to, produce more green energy. What does it say about energy security when we're not going to invest more into green energy as well? This is so stupid. In June, Miss Reeves said she took the decision to scale back because of the economy. She said she will never play fast and loose with the public finances, which again doesn't really make sense because you're investing that money into the economy. In order to get a return. You might not get the initial investment you put in, but it will have massive societal benefits for the country, especially if the manufacturing is done in the UK, or at least for the most part here. Yes, there are problems with the WTO rules and stuff like that, but if you can get a decent amount of the manufacturing done here, you are creating jobs here, experience here, expertise here. So this is complete nonsense. What Labour are doing here, I don't know, and whoever this joker is who briefed them, stop clowning around. Why is Starmer's top team briefing against other members of the shadow cabinet once again? We have seen this repeatedly. This from No Justice. This clip. This is referring to something else, but it's the same principle, really.
What should Labour get into government this year? What will you do about that? How will you find money for public services?
Well, it's exactly the point that you can't have a strong economy without strong public services.
She's going to say the main thing we can do to fund public services is to grow the economy for extra tax receipts, right? That's the first thing she's going to say, is to grow the economy. And she's going to mention the non-dom tax status. My prediction.
And because of that, we've identified sources of income that we could bring in, particularly this loophole for non-doms and other areas.
You got one. You're 50% there, NJ. So I'm not going to, it's not a straight win.
Every time.
You got one. I'll give you that. But, I would have guessed both of those, to be fair. I'm surprised this Labour frontbencher, I think she's a frontbencher, didn't go for the grow the economy line. But again, how are you going to grow the economy? You can manage the money better, sure. But that's only going to get you so far. Where, this country needs massive amounts of investment in order to help it. And that's just not going to happen under this lot. I can't see it. When we talk about the cost of borrowing, because I know people talk about that kind of stuff, and had some joker absolutely try and annoy me in a Discord server over it. This is the UK's bond yields, right? We're at 4.196% for 9-year gilts. The other numbers here, I always find it weird how it doesn't matter anyways. You got the yields higher on obviously the 20-year bond because you're holding your money there for longer, which makes sense, right? So we look at the EU bond yield. So it's at 3.5%, France 3.38. So you can say Macron can afford it because the interest rate for France is lower, especially at the time, right? And we don't know what the UK's interest rate is going to be. But we also know that the bond yields are dictated to by the interest rate the country has. So if Labour do fix up the economy a bit, it means the interest rates, hopefully on the bonds, should come down. The other thing is, as the economy kind of becomes more stable, as the UK bonds kind of hopefully go up in people's estimations of being stable, hopefully the bond yields can come down because of that as well. And also the fact that, the interest rate's there. So the interest rate in the Eurozone is lower than the interest rate in the UK. So that's another reason why the bond yields are lower amongst these countries. One of the other things Labour would have access to is selling more green bonds. Green bonds are the yields on them are much lower, but the money typically goes to green projects, and those are ways we could actually save money on yields, and companies buy them in order to make themselves kind of feel better and say, oh, we can't be that bad. Look how many green bonds we bought. But it's kind of greenwashing their company, but at the same time it's money in the bank for the exchequer, which the exchequer needs. And these are the bond yields for the Americans here. You can see. For some reason, their bond yields are a bit weird, but you got 5.284%, and then the yields on the longer term bonds are lower. I don't know why America is different. This is from CNBC, so I assume that their rates are correct. Maybe I've read this wrong, but CNBC, the money channel with crap, I forgot the guy's name. The guy who basically says buy the thing and you shouldn't buy it. And Labour have kind of bamboozled us on stuff before because they don't make sense. You had the Darren Jones claiming that the Labour Party didn't say that it didn't want a ceasefire, which again, that's a double negative, so I don't think that sentence even makes sense. And then you've got Starmer saying this.
While I understand calls for a ceasefire at this stage, I do not believe that it is the correct position now.
He also accused people of wanting saying that a ceasefire only benefits Hamas. So I guess Macron wants to help a terrorist organisation, apparently, according to this brother here. But you can see, you're just being gaslit by these goons, because this guy's saying Labour didn't say he didn't want a ceasefire, and you've got Starmer clearly saying here he doesn't want a ceasefire. He doesn't think it's the right policy right now. Maybe he changed his mind in those few weeks, but he didn't back the SNP amendment. So I don't know. He's talked about a cessation to the fighting, which they maligned the SNP for wanting a ceasefire, but a cessation apparently is also a ceasefire. So therefore, Labour do support a ceasefire, and so it's like, all right, we get it, Mr. Lawyer. You're trying to be pedantic with words here, but it does put Labour supporters in the awkward box of saying, well, Labour do support a ceasefire, but then when they're asked why didn't they support the SNP amendment, is, sorry, I'm real stupid, bro. It's just it don't make sense. This is something else entirely, but yeah, I don't. This lot just kind of frustrate me, but these are political lightweights. I think, in my estimation, anyways, this lot don't know what they're doing. There's no kind of coordination with them. If it's the case that Starmer wants to push this fiscal policy so much, the fiscal rules and all that stuff, therefore he's kind of trying to push Rachel Reeves to downscale on these pledges, then that would make sense. But Rachel Reeves herself has pushed this fiscal rule stuff, and in this bit down here, where she says she wouldn't play fast and loose with the public finances, like she was talking about Liz Truss, I think, in that context. Yeah, clearly she doesn't. If this lot were MPs under Clement Attlee, and Clement Attlee said he was going to borrow a lot of money to build the NHS, they would say, "Oh, you're playing fast and loose with the economy, bro. Oh, we can't do that, bro. Fiscal rules." No, like that's who this lot would be. They would be the villains in that situation, honestly. I don't know. I give up. If anyone's going to defend this lot over broken promises, then and all this kind of economic illiteracy, then fair. You either dumb or you've got an agenda, or maybe you're getting paid. I don't know, but no one can say this is good. Well, not this bit. This. If this is true, you had Ian. 1 second, where is he? Come on. You had Ian Dunt saying, if true, the story about them backing down on the pledge, taking one of the key radical elements of Starmer's Labour and eradicating it, also they can satisfy meaningless, arbitrary fiscal rule. And Ian Dunt here, big Starmer fan. Also, he was saying Sunak was something different as well. So, clearly this man who is employed by mainstream media outlets is very politically illiterate. He's saying the most depressing element is that it removes the mandate. This was a chance to show public support for aggressive green action and Keynesian stimulus. But again, you can't be fiscally, you can't follow this fiscal rule and follow Keynesian economics, because Keynesian economics is about borrowing money in the bad times, using that money to invest in the economy so it grows, and in the good times you pay that money back. That's kind of the basics of it, I think. And so, this idea that Labour are going to follow Keynesian economics, despite the fact that they've been pushing kind of George Osborne type austerity politics, makes absolutely no sense. Kind of the idea that the economy is like a household and it has to all balance and all this stuff. That's what Labour have been pushing for a while now. So for Ian Dunt to have not seen that, maybe there's not much working up there. He says, instead, the election machine seems to have won out. The Labour policy is to take every Tory attack and neutralise it. If that happens here, they'll have allowed Sunak to define the limits of political imagination. And what Labour have done is, in effect, allowed the Tory party, he talks about Sunak, but really he's allowed George Osborne, a guy who hasn't been politically relevant for a long time here, still define British economics, which is a tragedy, I think, in itself. And you got Ian Dunt saying, in an article not even that long ago, it's like less than 2 months old, saying Labour is going to be more radical than you think. Underneath all the trembling half-assed conservatism, there's something genuinely exciting about the Labour policy agenda. Are these people just not tired of being wrong? Honestly, are they just not tired of it? Do they not see how mugged off they get when they can make statements and Starmer can debunk them within the space of a week? Because he's no conviction. All he cares about is winning. He talks about it's his duty to become Prime Minister. He might as well say, I'll become Prime Minister at any cost. Because we know sanity is the price to pay for power. I've done that video. I've covered it. This lot are a bunch of frauds. And these are the ones that certain people want to run the country without question. That's what, they don't question them. They don't criticise them that much. These people are, in my opinion, very borderline shells, and they might have agendas. They might have other reasons to do what they do and say what they say, because politics isn't just about what you do, it's about what you don't do. Just like covering stories, it's not just about what you cover, it's about what you don't cover and why you don't cover specific stories. Certain people don't cover stories like this unless they're pushed to. I wonder why. But anyway, so I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, get social in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next one.